Hi everyone, Jarrod here, and welcome to a very special episode of To Introduce Our Guest Star. As you'll see, our guest today is Bob McGrath, and of course you'll know that Bob has since passed away. I just wanted to take a moment up front to recognise how brilliant Bob was and how special this interview is, and I'd like you to stick around afterwards because Joe and I got together in the wake of Bob's death to chat about his career and our time with him. So please enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Joe Hennis.
And I'm Jarrod Fairclough.
And welcome to Introduce Our Guest Star, a Muppet fan podcast presented by ToughPigs.com. In this show, Jarrod and I are taking it in turns to surprise each other with this week's guest, and this week it is my turn once again.
It is.
So, Jarrod,
congratulations.
You have no idea. Thank you. It's nice to have a turn once in a while. You have no idea who our next guest is, do you?
I have zero clue. I have some theories, but let's be honest, this is the 14th episode, and every time I've had a theory, it's been completely thrown out the window, one or two questions in. So,
all right, well, let's see how close you get this time.
All right.
Let's start off with your questions, buddy. What do you want to know?
All right. I'm feeling the pressure because you're currently 2 for 2 this season. You guessed
Right.
Alice and Fran. I didn't guess Marty. All right. Muppet, Sesame, or Henson?
Sesame.
Okay, that is playing into my theory. Is this person a performer?
Yes, this person is a performer.
A Muppet performer or a human performer?
This person is a human performer.
Well, all right. Everyone say goodbye, Jarrod's theory. Okay, all right. Interesting.
Haven't we had enough puppeteers on this podcast?
We
Jarrod?
have, but we could always have more. God, okay. Is this person still currently on the show?
I don't know how you define currently on the show.
Okay, sorry. So it's the person. So they're a human performer, but at the moment there's really only 3 main human cast members. So is it someone who was on like 20 years ago?
It is not one of the 3 current performers. I think is what you're asking.
Did this person ever play Yvette?
I don't know who Yvette is.
A vet.
Oh, Yvette. You're saying Yvette. No, this person has never either played Yvette or Yvette.
It's not Gina. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Was this person a part of the 50th anniversary?
Yes, this person was in the 50th anniversary.
In the 50th anniversary. Okay. Joe, I'm going to guess that it's the ever delightful Sonia Manzano.
Jarrod, our guest today has been one of our favorite neighbors since 1969. He has sung hundreds of songs in countless episodes of Sesame Street, having worn dozens of various sweaters and ridiculous costumes. Goodness. Jarrod, I'm so extremely pleased to welcome to introduce our guest star, the incredible Bob McGrath.
Oh my golly goshness. This is a big moment for me.
It's a big moment for Bob, I hope. Hey, there he is.
How you doing, Joe?
Bob, this is Jarrod. Jarrod, this is Bob.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Hi, Jarrod. I'm great. How are you?
I just heard Bob McGrath say my name, so this is the greatest day that I've ever had.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry life has been so slow for you.
This is a big moment for me, Bob, because I've been a fan of you since I was born, basically.
Yeah.
And
what year? We started in '69. What year did you start watching the show?
Well, I was born in 1989. There's a photo of me at my very first Christmas. So I was about 6 months old, and I have a Sesame Street book, and there's a drawing of you on it. So there we go, at least 6 months old.
Great. Yeah.
So this is massive.
That's terrific. Well,
but you probably get that a lot, Bob, right? Like you probably get people coming up to you all the time to be like, "I grew up with you," and you're way past like it making you feel old or anything like that.
I'm way past all that. Yeah. I'm marching towards 90, so those things don't bother me much anymore.
Well,
June
90.
13th,
you're looking
I'll be 90.
fantastic.
Oh, my wife and I do yoga 3 times a week, and we stay as active physically as we can. We're lucky enough to have gotten a house about 4 years ago, and it's on 2 acres with a lot of woods and that kind of thing, and deer and so forth. And
Beautiful.
so we're trying to stay as healthy as possible.
Great. Well, we're on our way. We're gonna come camp out in your backyard.
That's right.
We'll have a cookout. Yep.
Can't wait.
So you can just bring some deer off. We have plenty of deer running around.
I can see, Bob, you're wearing your Sesame Street, I guess, sweater. I don't know what Americans call them. We call them jumpers in Australia. A wonderful Sesame Street
This
sweater.
is about 35 years old, I think, this sweater.
I was going to say, I think it says 2001 on it. So there you go.
2001. Oh, yeah. We started in 69, so.
Do you have a lot of like just Sesame Street merch around the house? I
A
guess
lot of
after Sesame Street merchandise, I guess having been around, on the show for 50 years, is there a lot of Sesame Street stuff just in your house?
A lot of Sesame stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like pictures of, yeah. On my wall behind me, I wish I could figure out that. It's full of Big Bird and Cookie Monster, and I love that one with I think it was the New York Times did when Will Lee, Mr. Hooper died. Mm-hmm. It was a wonderful graphic of Mr. Hooper looking like he was in heaven, and Big Bird saying, hi Hooper, and he said, nice to see you again, Big Bird. So Big Bird is visiting Hooper in heaven.
Oh, that's nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And lots of other photographs over the whole wall. I just had one with Michelle Obama where she was guesting, and she had 4 or 5 of the cast were there, and so she invited us all in to have a picture taken.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's been a wonderful life, as they say.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that we were able to, peek in on your wonderful life for
not at all.
being on our TV screens for so long.
Now, you're involved with Tough Pigs?
Yeah, so Jarrod is now one of the co-owners of Tough Pigs along with me and Ryan. So we took him in and gave him a home.
Nice.
They're too nice
do
to
they,
me.
Do they treat you well in your home?
They treat me okay.
Good.
I do have to do all their laundry, but besides that, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. If you have time, I'll send some of mine.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the shipping cost is insane, but Jarrod is really great at folding,
It's true.
Yeah. I used to ship my laundry home from college, the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I can't imagine doing that. A little thin, lightweight metal box, and I shipped it to the farm, back to the farm, to my poor mother, and every now and then she'd get this thing and do my laundry and ship it back. But that worked out better than one time when I used the laundry for the first time in the basement of the that wasn't a fraternity at that point, it was a housing for freshmen. And I had never used the machine before, and it just said put such and such a soap in. So I did, but I thought, well, these clothes are pretty dirty, I'll put a little extra soap. So I dumped more soap in the machine than I apparently should have. And I came back in an hour, and there was about maybe 1.5 foot worth of suds all over the entire floor where the washing machines were. So
amazing.
I spent a while hosing that and shoving it down into anyway.
It's probably just easier to send it back home.
Yeah, it was. It was cheaper at the point.
For sure, yeah.
All things
Jarrod had mentioned earlier about your Sesame sweater that you're wearing, and I've always been a big admirer of all the sweaters that you've worn over the years on Sesame Street. I'm curious if those were yours or if they were costuming, and did they let you keep them? Because they're Bob sweaters.
They basically bought almost every one that I ever wore. I love sweaters. I had quite a few before the show because I was kind of a sweater person. When I was doing my concerts, I always wore colorful sweaters, and they picked up on that. So I now have, as a matter of fact, I'm just preparing to ship 2 or 3 of them back to my hometown in Ottawa, Illinois, because they've just started a new they call it a museum of some sort, but there's a lot of stuff goes on in that area. So they asked if I could send a few good things back that they're, but they typically just bought them, and I'd wear them for maybe a dozen shows, and then they'd say, we got to get something new. Everybody, everyone in the world knows what your sweaters look like now. So I've
So
benefited of a lot of really nice cashmere sweaters.
So does that mean there's going to be a Bob exhibit at a museum in Ottawa, Illinois?
Yeah, I think it's right outside of town, so I don't have it, but within the next several weeks, I'll be shipping that and several other things out to them. I guess they have a fair amount of space, so we'll see what they take. But in my house, I have, in our TV room, I have an image, a little Bert and Ernie and all that kind of stuff sitting around here and there, and keeps me feeling like I'm still working.
Yes, right. Yeah. Well, you're still a part of the family, you know. You can't get rid of that.
No, and every now and then, occasionally there's some things that they'd like us all to get involved in, and that's great fun. When the show turned 50, they named a street for us just 3 or 4 blocks from the office on Broadway, and so there's little goodies here and there, but it's been an incredible run for 50 years all over the world now.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's so great that you're, what we know as fans, when Sesame decides to bring in, you and Sonia and the other legacy folks, that means it's a big deal. That means we're acknowledging the fact that Sesame Street has been around for over 50 years. Sure. And we want to bring in these folks who've been a part of it for so long, as opposed to, the current work that they do. It's just for the current cast, the current puppeteers, things like that.
And it's like, guess what? They're still alive, and here comes one of them now. As I crawl in the door.
How was it then for you on the 50th to be back? Like, granted, you hadn't left that long ago, but what was it like for you on the 50th?
That was kind of fun. They had everybody in, and there must have been a total. I don't know. Did you ever see the show, Joe?
For sure, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there on set a couple of days.
That's right.
Not necessarily with you, I don't think. I was watching the feed from the office.
Right.
But I got, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary eyed when you walked on screen with Linda.
With Linda, yeah. She was an incredibly wonderful adaptation of the show, and we all felt terrible when they decided not to haul her back from the West Coast, for 5 minutes on camera. But they brought her back for that, and we had quite a wonderful relationship going, really both on and off camera, because she was an incredibly wonderful person, and her husband was great. And when the whole group from that she was with, the hearing for the deaf, they were all
the National Theater for the Deaf.
National Theater, right? Thank you.
Yep.
So that was great, and it was great to see them, and it was great to be back with Linda, and that was we were really, there's I think a lot of shows say we were sort of like a family, but we really were like a family. We came through some really interesting times in general for television, and certainly for our show and everything. And at one point, they wanted me to do something similar that Emilio Delgado and Sonia did, which was get married. And they projected that as a possibility. And I said, well, that would be because that turned out to be so fantastic for Emilio and Sonia. And I thought about it, and I came home and I talked to Ann about it, my wife, and I said, this would make a great, great show, and I'd love to do it. But since I'm still concertizing in many parts of the country with 3 of my children. I said, I think it might be a little awkward if I get married on Friday afternoon, and on Saturday, I pop on screen out in Dubuque, Iowa, and here are my 3 children. They're, what? You just got married 2 weeks ago or a week ago. So I turned it down, and I had reservations later because it would have made for another wonderful storyline, just like it did for Emilio and Luis. But I was a little too literal, maybe for my own sake, but I just thought it was awkward for some kids to see me married a week after I got, had 3 children a week after getting married.
Well, I'm sure it didn't help that, unlike Emilio and Luis are the same person, but they have 2 separate names. Same with Sonia and Maria.
Right.
But you're Bob. There's only one Bob. So it's, like if you're out in the world with your wife and someone thinks that Bob, the character, is married to someone else, they're going to say, Bob, what's up? And
I know.
You're going to say, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. But it's been an unbelievable run for this period of time in my life. More than I ever could have anticipated that it would be out. It started with them saying one time, we have this girl, and they brought in the Little Theater of the Deaf, and they did a couple of shows with us, and that was terrific. And then sometime later, when they wanted to feature Linda more, they said, we think we'd like to bring Linda back on because she's so fantastically wonderful, and she was, both as a signer and as an individual. And so then they said, would you mind going to sign language school down at the college in in the south side of New York? I said no. So that I said yes before I realized it was going to be quite a trip, going there several times a week for a full class. Mm-hmm. And but it was well worth it. And the feedback that we got from kids all over the world about signing and so forth and what it meant to them. And that still goes on now. We do, what is the other thing that we all do now? Celebrity, quote unquote, celebrities.
Like Comic-Cons?
Which one?
Like Comic-Con? Like the
Comic-Con,
conventions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
right.
we started doing those together, and that was great. I mean, it was so rewarding to hear parents come with their children, several who were had challenges, to hear what the show meant to them at that early age of 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. So it's just been so rewarding. I can't even begin to tell you. And the only other thing that's been as much impact, we haven't been able to do anything about it yet, but was the fact of Emilio passing away.
Yes.
That was like devastation, full blown. Then when he finally went and I got the call, it was like I was just devastated to the nth degree, knowing that, because he was a phenomenally in live person as well as a great actor on the show. So it's been much more than things on camera. It's been my whole life, from being in Paris one time, a little kid running after me and saying, Babu, Babu, or something. And it turned out he was from South Africa or someplace. Wow. And they they dubbed us sometimes in that language, and he started speaking fluent, whatever. And but fortunately, he was also fluent in English. So it was all right near under the Arc de Triomphe in Paris.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you say you call yourselves like a family, and especially in the early days, you guys were doing like hundreds of episodes a year. So you were spending so much time together.
Yes.
What was it like for you? Like that schedule of just like something like 130, 150 shows a year. What was that like for you?
It was very busy, and it was fantastic with all the shows we were at Sesame. And then, not to talk about this as opposed to that, but I had so many concerts going at that point that almost probably twice a month I'd be in someplace, anywhere in this country or Canada or wherever it might be. And it was extremely rewarding. Not only was it great, just as typically would be for anyone, but the big thing, especially back at Comic Cons and so forth, where the parents would just couldn't stop raving about what it meant to their child who had many different kinds of disabilities and so forth. So that was extremely rewarding. And one of the songs I did in the show, which is a nice song called Hello, and it was a signing song between Linda and myself. And we did it for many times and replayed. And so one of the things I did in my live concert, I say, all my friends at Sesame Street want to say hi, but one definitely wanted to say hi in a special way. And I say, see if you can tell me who it might be. And I just go like that. And the whole audience, they all just start waving, and you have the whole audience, doing a hello, and then do a little bit of sign language. How are you? I'm fine. Good to see you. On and on and on. It was remarkable to know how well it worked within the framework of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
And now all over the world, I mean, in 40, 50 languages or something now. And they said it's just as effective now when they go into a new country. And we see, I don't know, have you ever seen any of the video that they've shot for various reasons from those countries of kids in Africa just going out in this huge park and with, hundreds of kids there and watching the show. And
yeah.
It's,
well, and that stuff calls back also to the earliest days of Sesame Street when, they would literally take TV sets in the back of trucks to, impoverished neighborhoods.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And just kids would just come out in the streets to watch Sesame Street.
I know.
It's kind of incredible. Like that's still happening somewhere in the world.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think the last time we got together for something, they showed some of these shows, and they were in Africa, and you name it, all these third world countries, and they'd show, 500 kids out in the lawn and truck pull up with the camera, and they were all interacting just like we were sitting next to them. I mean, the show is great. The show is just, they've just taken full advantage of the opportunity, and it's just worked incredibly well, and still is.
It must be really nice to look back at your career and you get all this hard evidence that your work has impacted millions of people all over the world. It's not just like, gee, I hope I put a good spin on this life. It's like, no, you, like, I mean, Jarrod and I, we could just talk for ourselves of how much you've done for us.
Absolutely.
Like you helped teach us how to read. You were one of our best friends as children, and you had you had no idea. We didn't know we were adults.
The amount of times I walk around and just sing People in the Neighborhood to myself, and it's your voice I hear in my head.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I was going to tell you one other story. What was I'll tell it to you later. Anyway, and
well,
you live where do you live now?
Jarrod or
Jarrod? Yeah.
Me, I'm in Melbourne, in Australia.
In Melbourne.
Yeah.
This is sort of my Australia time also, because we're very big, of course, in Australia, as
Absolutely.
you know. And this summer, we had a young girl call us, and she was from Australia, and she came over to work as a counselor in a camp, and they had several kids from Australia. So she came and we spent together, a couple of nights here with my wife and family, and we're staying in touch. In fact, I just heard from her, I think 2 days ago, and she's been hired to come back again this coming summer. And my wife has some memory loss. And so we've had to have some outside help come in. And we've, over the course of summer, we probably had 8 or 10 different people come in to help with all of the stuff that goes on, for the benefit of my wife. And so she's anxious to come back. I just talked to them, and her name was Bianca Pepper. I guess Pepper is a last name in Australia.
I've never heard it, but that's not my last name is Fairclough. I can't have a go at anyone's last name.
What's that?
I was gonna say, do you know Bianca, Jarrod? Are you guys friends?
We're
Bianca
best
Pepper?
friends. No,
Yeah.
I've never met Bianca.
We all know each other over there.
But Bianca and I are definitely going to hang out.
Ah. Yeah, so
Share your
that
Bob
was
stories.
one, and Bianca, she said it's called Peppa, not Pepper. Peppa.
Pepper.
Peppa, right?
So we were talking a few minutes ago about Emilio, and
Oh, yes.
I had a very small memory that I wanted to share with you from a few years ago. It's probably 10, 15 years ago at least.
Mhm.
I was at an event at the Jim Henson Legacy building where I definitely was probably not supposed to be there, but I kind of snuck in a little bit. And I'm there with Ryan, our other Tough Pigs partner, and he and I were feeling very shy. It felt like there was a lot of celebrities around, Muppet performers and the Sesame actors and stuff like that. And we didn't know who to talk to, and we're just kind of like standing in the corner, and we heard the door opened, and someone came in and shouted across the room, "Babu!" And we look, and it's Emilio, and
Yes.
you are literally as far away as you could possibly be in this room, and he just spotted you, and we saw the two of you come together and share an embrace, with all these other people.
He was an absolutely remarkable person and a great actor, but humility and the warmth that he exuded. When I heard that he had this deadly form of cancer, bone cancer, I think, it set my wife and I both in shock, because we were such close friends, and Carol, his daughter, his wife. Did you meet Carol also?
Yeah, I've met Carol. She's wonderful. Yeah.
She's a phenomenal kind of person. So there's my wife peeking in through the door. Hello, wife. Wave
Hello.
Wave hello to Australia.
Australia?
Yes.
Hello.
The whole country.
This is my wife, Ann, and
Hi, Ann.
come down
Good
a little
to see
lower.
Who's that?
This is
I'm
Joe.
Joe. We've met before,
Tough
and
Pigs.
you shook my hand once, and you almost broke it.
I bet she did.
Yeah.
She has a very, very strong grip, and she always attributed that she
There it
grew
is.
up with a horse her whole life. And
I brought horses up
well, you didn't
Amazing.
bring 'em up, but you
because I had a sister who played the piano better than I did. So the hell with that. So I got a couple of horses, and my neighbors let me keep the horse. Well, there's only one.
come down a little bit. Come down.
What?
It's all right. We can see you. We
It's
don't need to
it's
speak
okay.
for us.
They let me keep the horse. They let me keep the horse in their barn. They
Come
never
over.
used the barn. They had a great barn, and they never used it. So
Yeah, so she was a horse lady. So she almost breaks my hand when we shake hands these days.
It's amazing. Well,
and
and
that's-
we're talking to Bob. We're talking to Bob about his time on Sesame Street. Do you have any favorite Sesame Street moments from that you've seen Bob do? Any favorite moments
That's
from the
how
show?
we
Favorite
met.
songs?
that was famous.
How did you meet?
We were both working in this
Private boys' school in New
private
York.
boys' school.
Before that,
I was a kindergarten teacher, and he was his music teacher.
And this is right after the end of my being in the army for 2 years in Stuttgart, Germany. And when I came back, I was looking for a place to live and some work, and one thing led to another. So I got a job in this private Catholic boys' school run by all lay faculty. and she was one of the members on the faculty there. So that's the
great.
beginning of a
That's
long
how
story.
we met.
Right.
Ow!
Time.
And you're still going strong.
And
Incredible.
she did karate for 15 years or so. And I mean, she did all the stuff. She broke all the boards. She did all the tumbles. And so
Wow.
I took my chances by marrying her. And it never got, only one time out in California, we were out there to visit our daughter, and we were in a very, very small room. It was the least expensive room we could find. And she said she'd been taking the karate, but she had one other form of karate. And she said, oh, they just taught us another movement. And I said, oh, really? And she said, yeah. I said, what is it? And the room was in the bedroom, which was hardly room enough to even turn around in there. And I said, well, how does it go? And she said, well, it's like this. And she just came at me. And before I knew it, one little swipe, and I was heading head first towards the TV about this. And I just got myself stopped moments before I put my head right through the TV. So I
always learned to where I wanted to.
Exactly right.
Yeah, we don't fool around.
Yeah. So we've had a wonderful life with,
Goodbye, I'm going.
okay, with 5 children.
I love to see my husband smile.
Yes,
lovely.
we do too.
It was lovely to
Okay.
meet you,
Great
Anne.
seeing you, Anne.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
And without an E.
And without an
And
A.
without
I
an E.
remember that.
Right.
Thank you, Anne.
So I've been very, very blessed. And I came from a fairly strong Catholic family. My dad was quite spiritual, much more so than my mother, but he was quite unique. And so I had 5 brothers and sisters. And I'll tell this really quickly because it's almost like I'm not a religious freak. I was an altar boy and the whole deal growing up and so forth. But at one point, I'm just amazing how and I don't dwell on or necessarily believe to the letter of the law a lot of stuff that happens, but some seems to be almost more than coincidental. Mm-hmm. And so I can believe in that there is a hand kind of guiding certain things. So the one last connection that I just kind of started thinking about, I was sent to Stuttgart, Germany for 2 years and got involved in the 7th Army Symphony. And then I took over the choir in the chaplain. And then when I was getting just about to be released, we had the whole 7th Army Symphony Orchestra was a top orchestra, all military. I wasn't in it, but I was attached to it, and I booked them all over the world practically. And so, as I was about to be discharged, he was a composer and a fantastic musician, reed player, and he said, "What are your plans?" I said, "I'm going to New York, going to get a master's degree in music." And he said, "Where are you going to go?" And I said, "Either Manhattan School of Music or Juilliard." And he said, "I'll go to Juilliard." Go to Manhattan School of Music. He said, "Manhattan's right across the street from the Philharmonic." And he said, they all think, since they've been there so close, they're going to graduate and walk across the street and be playing first chair violin the following week. So he said, go to Manhattan. So I said, okay. So he said, I'll tell this quickly if I can. He said, "Do you know anybody in New York?" I said, "No, not a soul." He said, "Call my roommate and tell him to give you a drink." I said, "Okay." So I took the name of it and I got there, excuse me. And I called him up and told him who I was and who his roommate told me to call. He said, "Yeah, come on over." So I went over there. It was only a few blocks away from where I was living. I was living at the YMCA for a week or two, and went to talk to him. And he said, "What are you up to?" So I told him. and he says, I'm looking for a job, place to live, going to go to get a master's degree. And so he said, go there. So I said, told him that. And he said, well, just go across the street to Bishop Furlong. There's a church over there. And he said, they have a paid choir or a paid octet. So I went across the street, told him, and he said, I think I sang a half a dozen notes. It wasn't much of an audition. And he said, fine, you pass with colors. And so he said, so I told him I'd leave a place to live and make some money. He said, go across the street to Bishop Furlong. He said, they got a paid small choir there, 8 or 9 voices. So I said, thank you. So I went from his across the street to St. Thomas More and did my thing. And he said, okay, you're hired. Sounds like you need some money, so I'll pay you double. And I said, that's great.
Sounds easy. Great.
Yeah. So, and he said, there's a private Catholic boys' school right across the street. This was at Madison and 92nd, it's 69th Street. And he said, there's a beautiful private boys' school there called St. Thomas More, St. David's. And he said, I know the music teacher was living on the top floor and he just got married. So he said, maybe he's, no. So I said, okay, I'll go with it. So I went over and told him, and Mr. Cianci, the secretary, said, and how can I help you? He said, well, I want to talk to David Hume, the headmaster. And she said, in regards to what? And I thought, I can't tell him I'm looking for a free sack and I'm looking for some money. So I said, well, it's rather private. And she sort of scoffed. You're asking to meet the headmaster of this private boys' school. And she said, okay. So she picked up, okay, he'll see you now. So I went in and I got his name was David Hume. He was about 28, 29 years old. And he was the headmaster of this private boys' school, which was like outrageously expensive. And his dad had been headmaster of another private boys' school. So I got about 6 lines out and he said, wait a minute. What you're really looking for is a free sack, right? And I said, well, you could say that, yes. He said, what can you do? So I went through a list of all my courses as a voice major at Michigan, theory and sight singing, hearing, ba-da-da-da. And he said, okay, he said, I think, he said, oh, and how about Gregorian chant? I said, no problem. I've been singing that since I was in 3rd grade, all through my growing up in the Gregorian chant choir. And he said, okay, we got the job. And he said, and if you sweet talk the cook, you'll get all you can eat as long as you're here. So, it went from, if you talk about the hand of God, this is a little bit like that. In Stuttgart, Germany, the choir. He sent me to his roommate who does all this stuff. He sent me across the street, St. Thomas More. He sent me across the street to St. David's rather. And within, 2 or 3 hours, I had a place to live, place to eat, all I could eat, a compensation of, I don't know, not a lot of money, $100 a month or something. And then when you think back and think, that's really weird. It was one connection that started up here and ended up here and here and here. That's a long story. I didn't mean get into that.
Not at all.
Before we started recording this episode, Jarrod and I were reminiscing about Follow That Bird, and which still, I don't know how long it's been since you've watched the movie, but it holds up. It's so good.
Which one were you watching? Talking about
Follow That Bird. The old Sesame movie from the 80s.
It was on here. It was on television here a couple of nights ago, and I made my mother watch it, and my mum fell in love with it. She thought it was fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a great. We shot that in Canada, and go ahead.
Well, and your role in that movie is basically you've like set up shop at Hooper's store to make keep track of everybody.
Right.
Were you disappointed at the time that you didn't get to like be out on the road, following Big Bird, in the Volkswagen or with
I was happy to do whatever I did. I mean,
Sure.
I never anticipated doing anything. I just stumbled into jobs, and I mean, I worked my butt off getting ready for that between lessons and singing since I was, 4 or 5 years old, not professionally, but as much as a little hometown in Illinois had. So when I I studied privately with Sergius Coggin, who was a phenomenal coach from Juilliard, because I decided I didn't like my music teacher I got in the second year at Manhattan School of Music. So I auditioned for this guy and got it. And then when I got the Mitch Miller show and I went in for a lesson, and I said, boy, am I lucky. And he said, why? And he had a very strong Viennese accent, and musicians from Vienna are just, it's hard to top them. I mean, I've heard the Vienna Symphony at Carnegie Hall like a half a dozen times over the years, and it's hard to beat the musicians that come from Vienna. And I said, I'm really lucky. And he said, how? And I told him the story, and he said in this thick Viennese accent, he said, luck has very little to do with it. And I said, really? He said, because if you weren't prepared for that audition, he said, there would have been 10 people outside the door lined up to do the same thing. And I stopped and I said, you're absolutely right, because it was a creme de la creme of a job in Manhattan at that point, because it was weekly and we got good pay. Mitch was great. That led us to Japan, and that started my whole Japanese career for, 10 trips over there, one with Mitch and 8 or 9 more by myself. And I just feel I feel like I'm one very, very lucky guy to have continued having a career that I worked hard for, but it was a combination of working hard and being certain things popping in place at the same time.
Well, there's a great lesson in that of, obviously we all need a little bit of luck in our lives, but like you say, you have to be prepared. So when luck strikes, you're ready to go. Yep. And then when you get the job, you gotta work hard. You gotta keep working and growing and, doing the best you can do.
You bet.
And then you get to be Bob McGrath. That's the moral of the story.
And I hope there's something even more exciting in your life than getting to see Bob McGrath. But other than that,
very few
it's
things.
Top 5 at least.
Very few things are exciting as getting to speak to Bob McGrath.
Oh, thank you.
I have one other very specific Bob question, by which I mean Bob the character.
Right.
So you've embodied this character for so long, and Bob Johnson, the character Bob, is...
strangely enough, I have an uncle whose name was Bob Johnson.
Oh.
I didn't even know I had a last name, because they had picked out Bobby for one of 3 or 4 of my names. And I haven't been called Bobby since I was in 3rd grade. So could we just go with Bob? And they said, yeah, no problem. So, but then my uncle was Bob Johnson, and we never used the name on the show. No one ever says Bob Johnson here. It was only just Bob here. And so when that happened, I thought, this is really strange. So, but it all falls in line somehow or other.
It's true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so Bob, the character, he's such a nice guy. He's such an innocent, almost milquetoast type of character.
Yeah.
But you're a real human being who I'm sure that you're not always, wanting to be the nicest guy ever. Do you ever find yourself out in the real world, and maybe you say something you're not supposed to, you drop a swear word or something like that, and people go, oh my God, Bob, how could you? And you're like, oh, I'm not the same guy as the one you grew up with. Grow up, everybody. Does that ever happen to you?
Here and there, yes. And a couple of times, I'm trying to think of a major rock band that was playing in the city. And my daughter was a big, big fan. I'm terrible in remembering certain things.
That's all right.
It was a fairly heavy volume rock band. They weren't screechers, but they were close to it. And she wanted to see us.
Sure.
she said, will you take me? I said, yeah, sure. So we went, and I went to the bathroom and the break, and every other guy says, Bob, what are you doing here? They were surprised to see me. They said, and it was I've had a lot of stuff like that happening, but I like to surprise people with the Bob opposite side of typically nice Bob when I can do that, and it does surprise people to see me doing certain things that.
I love it. You can really mess with people that way.
I love to mess.
Yeah.
My greatest joy, as a matter of fact, is messing, being someplace where, as a matter of fact, it was like whatever it was. I went to the men's room, and a couple of people started coming over to get an autograph as I'm standing at the urinal, right? And that's sort of weird. And
that's some bad timing. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And as I turned around and met him face to face, he said, what are you doing here? And I said, the question is, what are you doing here? Like I was scolding him for being at this raucous.
Right.
So every now and then you can have fun with that whole thing.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, then there's the second moral of that story is don't ask Bob for an autograph at the urinal. Wait until he's washed his hands and left the restroom.
It might be still a little soggy by the time he finishes writing on the screen.
Oh,
Casey turns around too quick. Don't ever surprise him there anyway.
Right.
Oh God, I just can't imagine having had a better life than the one that I've had. And
the song you're most known for would probably be People in Your Neighborhood.
Yes, right.
Is there another song you sung on the show that you feel sort of struck that you really loved that maybe never got the attention or I guess the love that it deserved?
Yeah, a whole lot of them, because they wrote tons of songs for me. But going into like the middle of the first year, Joe Raposa just was running out of ammunition to come up with, 15 new songs every show or more. And so they were allowed to do some things that were on the charts, and they decided to give me a chance to do Good Morning Starshine. And,
oh yeah, that's fun.
So we did it with the Muppets, and it was probably, I think it was the best produced show that I was in. Everything. Had you happen to see it on my website or anything?
Yeah, it's out there. I think it's on YouTube somewhere.
It is.
It's a fun number from probably the first season, maybe.
Yeah, it is the first season because they were running out of songs, so they choose that. And I think I was given a choice of a few things, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'd love to do that." So they built it was like a nighttime Tonight Show for that presentation with all the Muppets and some of the Yip Yip Muppets, and they were all coming in over my shoulder and here and there, and it was just so much fun to do. So that is on the YouTube. If you have a chance, watch that one. That was a really good one, and
it's fun. But there is no educational value to that number at all.
Except watching.
What are we teaching with good? Yeah,
watching the Muppets have fun climbing in all around my whole thing here.
Yeah.
But that was a great fun one to do. Have you seen some of my daughter, who is in the business sort of also, and she put together all of my songs that are on YouTube, and I think there's maybe 15 or 20 or more, and she did them as one whole package. And
oh yeah, like a playlist. Yeah, we'll make sure we link to that in the show notes for this.
The other thing, which is one of the most fun songs, I was working in Canada a lot and all over doing telethons, and I did one of my songs called Flyin', FLY''N, Flyin'. And it was kind of I don't know, you probably never heard it, but I recorded it, and it was a nice recording. And then I've been doing for years a lot of songs in Canada for the military. And this was the great, or my mind is going right now. So anyway, I did it on there, and they happened to have a whole parachute team as jumping, and they said, would you like to do, it's called the all veteran parachute team. So there were about 5 guys and 1 girl on this team, and they were all military parachute guys, all over the world, I guess. And so they were there, and they said, would you like to go up and take a little jump? I said, oh God, yes, I'd love it. So I got a little bit of ground time, what we do. And before I knew it, I was up 10,000 feet. And
was it the same day when they asked you if you want to do it, and then you're in the plane later in the day?
It was like maybe a day later. Yeah, very close.
Amazing. That's incredible.
And, wow.
And so they were just wonderful, wonderful guys. The guy that he was my buddy, my back. He had my back literally, or I had his one.
Right.
And so he gave me a little short routine, what to do, what not to do, and so forth. But so he said, you don't actually jump, you just kind of lean. So and this was a prep in the plane. He's all in bed. You go 1, 2, and off you go. I said, okay, fine. I'll be ready to be pushed out after the 3rd thing. So, and he said, you got to wear your goggles because at 100 and some miles an hour, he said, it'll suck your eyeballs out if you don't have goggles on. And I said, because it's that intense. So we did. Yeah. And after, it seemed like a while, but after probably like 15 seconds, he pulled the chute, and all of a sudden you kind of snap to from coming at 100 miles an hour to floating. And that was like, I would die to do that 50 more times the next month. It was
wow.
Great. Yeah. But that's
incredible.
So that's kind of a fun song if you want to take a look, because you see me. We have an old farm that we bought up in Maine, and I had a swing in the barn. And one time my daughters taped me on the swing. I was swinging on my swing, swinging to and fro. So it was all about flying. And I said, wow, that could fit nicely with the parachute jump. So she said, yeah, it would. So she put it, and they taped it, and they put the 2 together. So take a look.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful.
That's great. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes as well.
That was a fun experience.
I'll tell you, You're a braver man than I am, Bob. I would not jump out of a plane.
Well, I didn't jump. I got shoved.
Well, I wouldn't get shoved out of a plane. Yeah. I would not stand for it.
Oh, this guy was he was my jump master, and he had something like 4,000 individual jumps by himself, and another like 2,000 with other people with him. And he was one that took President Bush for a jump. And
yeah,
I thought, well, if he's vetted well enough to take the president out 10,000 feet, I think I could trust him. But I didn't have one moment of hesitation through the whole routine because it was so well put together.
Wow,
that was fun.
I'll tell you what, I will jump out of a plane if I can be strapped to you, Bob.
Okay, that's I wouldn't do that.
That's right. What a way to go, though, right?
Yeah. But I said, well, how do we land? He said, well, you just wait till I tap it 3 times and then just put your feet out because we're going down fast. He said, just put your feet out in front and in 10 seconds, you'll be sliding along on your bum on the grass. And I did everything, and it was like the simplest thing I've ever done. But the most exciting thing I've ever done also.
It's
Fantastic.
phenomenal.
The view is just outrageous at 10,000 feet when you're just, I mean, you really feel like you're a bird flying. It's great. I didn't mean to run on for 2 hours with that story, but
Oh no, hey,
No,
it's
no,
all right.
not at all.
Well, so Bob, we in every episode of this podcast, we have a series of questions that we like to ask our guests.
Okay.
I have a set of questions. Jarrod has a set of questions. Today it's
Okay.
on me to
Great.
ask you my questions. Feel free to answer them as fast or as slow as you like.
I'll try and do
can't
it
go
fast
wrong.
for your sake.
All right, here we go. Bob, what is your favorite dessert?
Oh, anything that has chocolate in it.
Great
Good choice.
answer. Me too.
Anything at all.
Who is your favorite superhero?
Superhero? You mean like Superman or some character like that?
Sure. Or define that question however you'd like. It's up to you.
There's
no right or wrong answers here. Like, did you grow up reading comic books or
I did in a strange way. I lived on a farm, which had nothing to do with comic books, except my daughter, my sister, dated a guy that lived in town, and he worked after school while in high school, and his payment was getting free comic books that had their cover cut off so they couldn't sell them again.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they can't
he was my
resell 'em,
favorite. He was a hero because every time she had a date, he got a comic book, yeah, and he'd have 2 or 3 comic books. I wasn't a comic book fan, even though I've met a lot of guys that now have written them and so forth at Comic Cons.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's a great organization. That's a tough question. I love, like I just saw last night. I'm not going to pull this out of my head either. It was about a 5 or 10-year-old movie that was fantastic.
What was it about? We can figure this out.
I can think about it now.
All right, fair enough. All right, we'll move on for now.
Yeah.
Bob, if there was a Muppet based on yourself, who would you want to perform it?
To perform it?
Yes.
Fred Rogers.
Hey, that's a good answer.
Great answer.
I would have thought you would have gone with a Muppet performer, but you're right. Fred Rogers would have been phenomenal as
he was a guest on the show, and I'll tell you a quick story on that. I got to into the studio at around 10 o'clock because they were taping and I went to the makeup room and I was at the door because there was somebody already getting made up in the last chair. And I looked and all of a sudden I heard a voice say, "Now there's a voice I've wanted to meet for a long, long time." And it was
wow.
And
that's
had
amazing.
A wonderful talk there. So, and
that's great. I love
I
that.
admired him enormously.
What a meeting of the minds. I love that.
God, yes. Next,
Bob, pick a number between 1 and 100.
Out of my hat.
Yes, any number.
7's have been a lucky number for me for some reason.
All right, 7. The AFI Top 100 Movies list, the number 7 is Lawrence of Arabia. Have you ever seen this movie, Lawrence of Arabia?
Lawrence from Arabia? No, I don't think so.
Do you want to? I don't know.
Sure.
I was going to ask you your opinion of it, but you've never seen it.
Are you going to play it now?
I was going to ask what you think of it.
Yeah, we're all coming over to watch it.
Okay.
All right, great. On our way. In our previous episode, our guest was Fran Brill.
Oh, great.
And she, not knowing who our next guest was going to be, asked this question to you. Oh. What is the meaning of life?
Oh, Lord.
No big deal.
No.
Small
easy question.
That's like a 2-hour question to answer, but meaning of life? Be proud of whatever you do, no matter whether you think no matter whether you thought this might be your goal in life. Do the best you can. Be honest. Let your wife know you really love her and you got the best relationship you could possibly have, which we've managed to do so far. And study, work as hard as you possibly can for whatever you think your choice in life, goal in life might be. And even if it doesn't turn out to be your ultimate goal, if you go at it with enough honesty and hard work, somehow or other it's probably going to pay off, not only for you, but for people that you work with or know, and they will sense that dedication. And so you might be doing something totally different than you think, but maybe inadvertently, you might be doing something even better than what you thought you had planned or what you thought was your goal.
Mm-hmm.
That was such
Love
a
it.
good answer.
Was it all right?
That was
I think
perfect.
that might actually
Never had
be the
that.
meaning of
Never had
life.
questioned that before.
And I should say, I think hearing you say it and being such a fan of you since my whole life, just hearing your voice say that was a really nice moment.
Oh, thank you very much.
It felt like a real lesson.
There's probably one of 100 more lessons if I sat and had a beer with you that I could think of, but
Wow. I'm on my way.
Anytime, Bob. Literally
Anytime.
anytime.
Wouldn't that be
I'll
fun?
take you up on that. Our final question for you, Bob. Without knowing who our next guest is, what question would you like them to answer?
Oh, good Lord.
It could be anything. It does not have to be quite as heady as what is the meaning of life. It could be anything in the world.
No, when we had Emilio Delgado on this podcast.
You had Emilio once?
We had Emilio on. He was our very first guest.
Did you?
And his question was a joke. It was, why was 6 afraid of 7? Because.
Yeah, so that's the gamut of the types of questions we could ask. You could ask a
Lord.
stupid question like that, or you could ask, what's the meaning of life? And anything in between.
Why should I be doing in my life what I had no intention of doing?
Okay.
Wonderful. All right. I look forward to asking that question to whoever our next guest is.
All right. Let me know what they say, because I have no idea what the answer might be.
Yeah, me neither.
That's the beauty of it.
I have no idea who the guest is going to be.
Because sometimes you do stuff and it takes you it can take you years and years to finally say, holy crap, that's why I'm doing this. Because I guess bottom line is, if it really made a positive impact on someone else that was really meaningful, every now and then you'll get a shock for something you've done in life or doing. I have a song called, I think it was the song I Can Do It. I can do it. Is that found at all? Have you ever heard of that with Sesame Street?
It's vaguely familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do it.
So anyway, I would do it in the concert, and then I was done with this concert in Canada, and I was picking up all my stuff, the band and all that, the orchestra already left and so forth. And this guy came up with a little boy about 6, 7 years old, and he said, can I show you something with my child? I said, sure. He said, and he called me, he said, John, would you go? He was on the stage and I was down on the floor. And he said, would you go over there and walk across the stage for Bob? And he said, yeah. So we walked over and he walked across the stage perfectly fine. And I had sung this song in the concert. And he said, I want to thank you, because that's why he's able to walk. And
wow.
It turned out it's a long song, I won't get, but the title is I Can Do It. I can do it, I can do it. Even though it isn't easy, I can do it. Yes, I can, to the whole melody. And he said he had this physical disability and they didn't think he was ever going to be able to walk again. But he, over the course of a year or two working with therapy, and he said, we played the song every time he had to do this difficult thing, having this great physical difficulty. And he said, we must have gone through 8 LPs, worn them down, just playing this one song during his therapy. And he said, wow, that's what pulled it through. You know, I'm sorry I wasn't the guy that wrote the song. I would have felt even better, but just singing. So that was a meaningful moment in life.
That's great.
Beautiful.
Well, again, like you've touched so many lives, Bob. Like you should be very proud, and we're very, very proud to have spent this time with you today and got these stories out of you, and just to spend some time with you. So thank you for being here, Bob.
Well, thank you so much. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time.
No,
Not
Bob,
at
this
all.
was a treat. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
Yes, and thank you for everything you've done.
you're very
Thank you for
welcome.
everything you've done over the last 50 years, and for being here on this podcast with us. And we're looking forward to getting more life lessons from you soon. Thank you for joining us for this post to introduce our guest star chat, all about our very special guest, Bob McGrath. As we mentioned, we performed this interview several months ago. We have a very long production schedule. So we were very grateful to have had the opportunity to chat with Bob when we did, because this was, we didn't know it, but this was our last chance to have a real conversation with Bob for this show and for Tough Pigs. So Jarrod, how did it feel to get to talk to Bob?
I think I've said a couple of times, I might have even said it in the interview. Granted, I haven't listened to it. I haven't done that editing yet, but I said it was like a religious experience. It really was. Like, I remember that feeling of you telling me, like, as soon as I realized who it was, of just like, yeah, it was just, I was so excited because it was Bob.
Yeah.
And Bob's been this, constant fixture in my life since, for 33 years. So to actually have him, in front of us, and when he said my name, I just remember going, like, oh, that's, like, everything's okay. Like, Bob said my name, and I'm so glad I got that chance to have some sort of conversation with him in my life, because that's something now I get to hold on to forever.
Yeah. I mean, Bob is, it's his level of celebrity is so interesting, where he's so important to so many people. And yet it's like, to talk to him, it's like, oh, you're just, this old guy with, this beautiful singing voice who's like done a lot of TV stuff. Like I can't really put my finger on like why you're famous, why you're important, but you are. And he's such first of all, he's such a nice guy. He's the nicest. Like, Bob's exactly what you want him to
really
be.
Was, yeah.
And so to get to spend time with him, like we did for this interview, was just such a gift, and such a pleasure. Not just to, get that confirmation that Bob is exactly, he is Bob from Sesame Street, but also to kind of, to thank him for all of that, that time that he spent with us on the show, like teaching us how to read and count, and, welcoming us to the neighborhood, and, telling us which of these things is not like the other. Bob,
exactly right.
Bob, of all the Sesame humans, it just has always felt like the most genuine, and I'm really grateful that we got the opportunity to celebrate him.
That's it. It's so just for context, for people listening, so we're recording this literally just a few days after Bob passed, and so it's still, there's still some news stories floating about, but it was really interesting just seeing the reaction from, like, for us, we knew this was going to be a big deal for us. When I heard the news, I was like, well, obviously Tough Pigs will, do a big thing, and Joe and I are going to talk about it. But just seeing the general public and, like, people in my everyday life were like, oh, did you hear about about Bob McGrath, and I was like, it was just amazing. Like, I forget that he belonged to everybody, and Sesame Street belongs to everybody. Sometimes it feels like it's a very personal thing, and especially considering what you and I do, it can be a very personal thing. And so it's really nice to see the world sort of come together and remember Bob. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's taught everybody, not just us.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is, like, you know, especially working in this very niche world of ours, of Muppet fandom, like every once in a while I'll have to say, like, you know, I'm telling a story about Matt Vogel. Okay, hang on, let me stop for a second. Matt Vogel's the guy who performs Big Bird and Kermit. Well, he hasn't always been Big Bird and Kermit. Like, I go through the whole rigmarole. But with Bob, you go, Bob McGrath. Okay, Bob was, there's Bob from Sesame Street. And people go, oh, Bob. Oh, I love Bob. Everyone just knows him. Yeah. We all grew up with Bob.
That's it.
Everyone had a special Bob moment.
Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's
your favorite Bob moment on the show?
Oh my gosh, my favorite Bob moment on the show. You know what's funny? I mentioned this. You posted an article after he passed away that was just a spotlight of, you know, some of your favorite Bob moments.
Yeah, the best of Bob.
The best of Bob.
Yeah.
And my reaction to that was, we could get every writer on Tough Pigs to create their own list of the best of Bob, and everyone's list is going to be completely different, and they're all accurate. It's not like you know, if we were to say, like, everyone pick your favorite Muppet Show episodes. Well, everyone's going to have the Harry Belafonte in their top 5. Like, it's not about that. Like, there's so many 50 years worth of Bob moments. So, you know, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the scenes in Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. I just think that he's so genuine in those, you know, in the Keep Christmas With You song, in the True Blue Miracle song, wishing Mr. Hooper happy Hanukkah. Like, I mean, every little moment of Bob, it's like candy. But I mean, I also have to call out, you know, I got the rare opportunity to write a Sesame Street video that went straight to YouTube. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's not like it's like gonna hit anyone's top 20 Bob moments. But for me, getting to work with Bob, getting to write things that he then sat on camera and read those words, and I mean, to me, that was a gift that I got to give to him. To, like, you know, let me give you something. Let me give you some words to say, to put you on screen with Elmo, you know, with some puppets, and I don't know. I mean, there's just something really personal about that I don't think I'll ever forget. That just really, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I never got to write for Bob, so I wish I'd gone first. And told my favorite one.
Sorry.
But do you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Going through those videos for that post, there was like stuff I hadn't seen before. Like, there's a bit where he's with Victor Borge, and Bob's almost getting a little bit angry at Victor Borge, which is strange to say anyway. But then he's like, you know, no, Victor. So Victor's playing the piano, Bob's singing, but they're not in sync. And Bob goes, no, Victor, follow me. And starts singing again and starts walking around the piano. And Victor gets up and starts walking behind him. And Bob goes, what are you doing? And Victor goes, well, you said to follow you. And it's a dumb joke. And then Bob just gives a look to the camera. And I barely laughed at that. Maybe I was just because I was feeling like, you know, a lot of love and nostalgia for Bob at that moment. But I barely laughed looking at that because I'd never seen it before. And that really, really made me laugh. But there's also just moments where you can see Bob almost drop the Sesame Street Bob persona and go into normal Bob McGrath when he's like laughing at a Muppet, when he's like improvising with the puppeteers, like during especially a lot of the People in Your Neighborhood songs. Like, there's moments where one of them will say something, Bob will just laugh at them.
Yeah.
And it's a real human moment that I really like.
Yeah, it's true. Bob was maybe Sesame Street's greatest straight man. You know, like he knew how
Absolutely.
He knew exactly how to work with the Muppets to give them the big laugh, to make himself look a little bit like a fool sometimes, and to give that perfect like mug to the camera, that that little smirk. You know, that you're in on the joke, and Bob might be the butt of the joke, but at least we all learned something. Bob was the best.
Right.
I loved Bob the character. I loved Bob the human. I'm very grateful that we got the opportunity to to spend the time that we did with him, not just on this podcast, but like throughout, Tough Pigs, seeing him at events, things like that. Bob was the best of us.
He really was. And we won't sort of go into it here, but if people really want a bit of a tearjerker, go and read Joe's little tribute to him, which is me and Bob, my unexpected friendship with Bob McGrath, because you two were friendly. You two were friends.
I generally, I have a unspoken rule that I don't write much personal stuff on Tough Pigs, but Bob and I did have a friendship. It wasn't a close friendship. We weren't like hanging out on the weekends or anything like that, but like we did really enjoy spending time with each other when we found ourselves in the same place. And, in a way that I don't have that kind of experience with anyone else from the show. Not even the Muppet Performers. I mean, really, I'm very grateful that he considered me to be someone that he, I'll say that he considered me a friend. And, this, I think that's why, another reason why, this is different than like, say, when Carol Spinney passed, or when Emilio Delgado passed, or any of the other, Muppet people that we really have loved, because we've loved their work so much, or we grew up with them, over the years. This one kind of hit me in a different way, and
in a personal way, really.
In a personal way, but at the same time, Bob was 90 years old, and we did get significant time with him, including this podcast that we're currently wrapping up, and I get to look back on that and go like we had it, and he stuck around long enough for us to have these moments. And I get to keep that now for the rest of my life, and share it with everyone who's listening to this podcast or reading Tough Pigs, or as we're putting weird stuff on social media. Like, that's the reason I got to be close to Bob, was because there was a direct connection between Bob and Muppet fandom through that.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Joe. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Go back and listen to it again, and it'll be like Bob sitting in your car with you.
And thanks, Bob, for joining us.